At 30,000 feet, the whales cut to the airplane cabin like sirens, raw, terrified, and relentless. Not the usual toddler fuss passengers roll their eyes at, but something deeper. Desperate. Row 19. Damon Trent's eyes snapped open. Years as a pediatric occupational therapist had trained him to recognize the sound of real distress. This wasn't a tantrum. It was fear. Before he could move, a blur of motion beside him, his 7-year-old daughter, Adeline. "Wait, Lynn," he whispered sharply, but she was already unbuckling her seatbelt. Her small frame darted up the aisle, purple sneakers padding over the carpet. "Adeline," Damon hissed, half standing, squeezing past startled passengers. But she didn't turn around. By the time he reached first class, where he definitely didn't belong, Adeline was kneeling beside a crying boy. And then the crying stopped. Not slowly. Instantly. Damon froze in the aisle. His daughter's hands moved fluidly through the air, fingers dancing in graceful precision. Sign language. The boy, tears still on his cheeks, stared, then began to sign back, halting at first, then faster, more confident. The elegant woman beside him, clearly his mother, watched in stunned silence. Her sleek suit and poise couldn't hide exhaustion or guilt. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked. Is she signing to him? Does she understand what he's saying? Damon nodded, unable to look away from the silent exchange between the children. Adeline turned toward him. "Daddy, he needs his blue blanket," she signed softly. "His grandma made it. It's in the silver case. He can't fly without it." The woman gasped, hand flying to her mouth. His grandmother's blanket. Of course. Damon reached for the case, lowering it gently. The woman's trembling hands unzipped it, revealing a soft, hand-knitted blue blanket. The moment the boy saw it, his face transformed. He clutched it to his chest, breathing evening out, tension melting away. Adeline's hands moved again, slow and patient. The boy smiled to the remnants of tears, signing something that made her giggle. The transformation was complete. Chaos replaced by calm. The woman exhaled shakily. "Thank you," she whispered, voice breaking. "I've been learning sign language for 2 years, but when he gets upset, I just freeze. I fail him." Damon crouched beside her. "It's not failure," he said gently. "You're learning. You're here. That's what matters." She blinked back tears. "You're kind." A flight attendant appeared, soft smile hiding relief. "Perhaps the young lady could stay here for a bit," she suggested. "We have an empty seat across the aisle." Damon hesitated, but Adeline was already showing the boy, Nolan, new signs. The woman nodded eagerly. "Please. He hasn't been this calm since his grandmother died." Damon sat across from them, watching his daughter work quiet magic. For the next 3 hours, Adeline and Nolan's hands told stories. Games, jokes, questions. They laughed without sound. The woman, still elegant but now fragile, watched every movement like she was memorizing hope. Damon noticed her mimicking signs under her breath. At one point, she caught his eye and smiled. "I'm Kendall. Kendall Moore." "Damon Trent," he replied. "That's Adeline. She's remarkable." "She is," Kendall said softly. "Nolan's my world. But sometimes I wonder if I'm enough." "Every parent wonders that," Damon said. "Hearing or deaf, it's the same heartache." They fell into conversation. She was flying home to San Francisco with Nolan after business meetings in Chicago. He was heading there to visit family for Thanksgiving. The coincidence felt almost fated. As the plane descended, Adeline showed Nolan how to pop his ears safely. The boy beamed, signing, "Thank you," 3 times. Kendall's hand brushed Damon's arm. "Could I get your contact information?" she asked, shyly. "I'd like to thank you and your daughter properly. Maybe lunch while you're in town? Nolan would love to see her again." Damon hesitated, but Adeline's hopeful grin decided for him. He handed over his business card. 3 days later, Kendall called. "Mr. Trent, Damon, it's Kendall Moore from the flight. Nolan can't stop signing about Adeline. Would you join us for lunch tomorrow?" Damon looked at his daughter feeding ducks in the park. Carefree. "We'd love to," The restaurant was elegant but family-friendly. Adeline wore her favorite dress, her confidence infectious. Kendall looked different off the plane, still polished, but warmer, in jeans and a soft sweater. Over lunch, Kendall confessed, I'm not usually so unraveled. My mother passed away 6 weeks ago. She was Nolan's anchor. She taught me to sign, pushed me to understand him. Without her, I feel lost. Damon nodded, empathy tightening his chest. My wife, Jennifer, died 4 years ago. Brain aneurysm. Adeline stopped speaking after that. 6 months of silence. Sign language brought her back to me. It became our lifeline. Kendall's expression softened. I can buy Nolan the best therapist, the newest tech, but I can't buy what your daughter gave him, a friend who sees him. Damon smiled faintly. You sound like a mother who loves her son. That's worth more than anything. Kendall laughed through tears. You always know what to say. That lunch stretched to 3 hours. When it ended, neither wanted to leave. Kendall suggested another meetup at Golden Gate Park, then the Children's Museum, then another weekend. Soon, it became routine, monthly visits, then bi-monthly, until weekends without seeing each other felt incomplete. Kendall began arranging flights for Damon and Adeline to visit San Francisco, or she and Nolan would fly to Chicago. It's nothing, she insisted, compared to seeing my son thrive. Damon watched Adeline bloom. She had always been sensitive, but with Nolan, she had purpose. Teaching, guiding, helping him navigate a hearing world. Nolan, in turn, showed her the pride of deaf culture. And something else began to grow between Damon and Kendall. He tried to ignore it. She was brilliant. Intimidating even, discussing renewable energy and market strategies like she was born to command rooms. But she also made him laugh. She listened. She remembered. In quiet moments, when the kids signed stories in the background, Damon would catch Kendall watching him with an expression that made his heart beat uneven. 6 months after flight, she called one evening. I'm restructuring my company, she said nervously, moving part of it to Chicago. It means Nolan and I will be there half the month. That's huge, Damon said, stunned. Kendall's voice trembled. Damon, I think I'm falling for you. I know it's messy, our kids, our history, but I can't keep pretending I don't feel this. Silence stretched. Then Damon whispered, I've been trying to say the same thing for months. Her laughter, relieved and disbelieving, filled his kitchen. Really, he said. You're the first person who's made me feel seen again. They talked until 2 a.m. about fears, grief, and the possibility of starting over. By autumn, 1 year after that fateful flight, they were a family in everything but name. Kendall bought a house in Chicago with enough rooms for everyone. Nolan and Adeline thrived together, silence and sound blending into harmony. Kendall once told him, You gave me my son back, Damon. You and Adeline showed me what real family feels like. He squeezed her hand. And you reminded me it's okay to start over. On the back porch one evening, watching the kids chase fireflies, Kendall smiled through tears. You have your world. I have mine. But together we have something better. He kissed her softly. Yeah, we do. A year passed since that first meeting on Flight 782. Life had settled into a rhythm neither Damon nor Kendall could have imagined. Adeline and Nolan became inseparable, not just friends but kindred spirits. Their bond was deeper than words, formed in silence yet speaking volumes. They signed stories together at the dinner table, created secret games, even taught their teachers and classmates new signs. Every evening, Damon and Kendall would sit on the porch, coffee mugs in hand, watching the kids laugh under the fading sun. Sometimes, Kendall would reach over and rest her hand on his. No words were needed. Then came the idea that would change everything. It was a Saturday afternoon when Kendall found Damon in the living room, surrounded by papers. He was sketching out a proposal. What's all this? She asked, kneeling beside him. He smiled sheepishly. I've been thinking about starting a foundation, one that offers free sign language training for parents with deaf children. There are too many families like yours who can't find the right help in time. Her eyes widened, then softened. You're serious? Completely. I want to call it the Blue Blanket Foundation, after Nolan's grandmother's blanket and what it symbolized: comfort, safety, connection. Kendall's throat tightened. You really remember everything, don't you? Every moment that matters, Damon said. She leaned in and kissed him, slow, grateful. Then let's do it together. The foundation launched 3 months later. Kendall handled the logistics and funding. Damon trained volunteers and led workshops. Adeline and Nolan became the heart of every campaign. Their story featured in short films that moved people to tears. The media loved the narrative. Billionaire CEO and single dad build hope for deaf children, all because of flight. But for Kendall and Damon, it was never about headlines. It was about watching a mother sign, "I love you," to her deaf child for the first time. It was about fathers who stopped being afraid of silence. It was about hope. One evening, after an exhausting day of meetings, Damon came home to find the living room dark, except for the soft glow of fairy lights. Kendall stood there, wearing a simple navy dress. On the coffee table, a single blue candle flickered beside a folded blanket. "What's all this?" he asked, smiling. She stepped closer, her voice trembling but steady. "I wanted to remind us how far we've come. That everything we built, this family, the foundation, our love, started with a moment of kindness on an airplane." Damon's heart swelled. "You're incredible." "No," she said, placing his hand over her heart. "We are." Then she dropped to one knee. Damon froze. "Kendall." "Sure," she smiled through tears. "You saved me when I didn't even know I needed saving. So I'm asking, will you let me spend the rest of my life saving you right back?" For the first time in his life, Damon was speechless. Then he laughed, pulling her up into his arms. "Yes, 1,000 times, yes." Their wedding was small, just family and a few close friends, held at the edge of Lake Michigan. Nolan carried the rings. Adeline signed her vows before translating them aloud. When the minister asked for the exchange of promises, Kendall turned to Damon and signed first. "You taught me that silence isn't empty. It's full of love." Damon signed back. "And you taught me that listening isn't just about hearing. It's about understanding." When they kissed, Adeline and Nolan clapped their hands, and then signed forever. Months later, the Blue Blanket Foundation reached its first milestone. 100 families sponsored, hundreds more trained. News outlets covered it across the country, but the most powerful moments weren't on camera. Like the day a mother ran into Kendall's arms, sobbing, whispering, "He signed Mommy for the first time." Or when a father from Detroit sent a photo of himself and his daughter signing together, captioned, "You helped me find my way back to her." Every story reminded them why they'd started. One winter morning, snow dusted the windows of their Chicago home. Adeline and Nolan were building a snow fort outside, laughing silently, cheeks red from the cold. Damon and Kendall watched from inside, wrapped in a shared blanket. "They're growing so fast," Kendall murmured. "Too fast," Damon said, smiling. "Feels like just yesterday they met on that plane." Kendall leaned against him. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if Adeline hadn't walked down that aisle?" "All the time," he admitted. "It reminds me that sometimes the smallest act of kindness can change everything." She turned to him, eyes glistening. "It really did, didn't it?" "It did," he whispered, kissing her forehead. Outside, Adeline helped Nolan shape the last snowball for their fort. He signed something quickly. She laughed and nodded. From the window, Damon caught it. Family, that one word, spoken without sound, carried through the frost, filling the room with warmth. Years later, their story became legend. Newspapers wrote about the empire built on empathy. Documentaries highlighted their work, and the foundation grew internationally. But for Damon and Kendall, the legacy wasn't about fame. It was about that first quiet moment in row 19, when a little girl reached out to a boy no one else could reach. And somewhere in the echo of that memory, they knew one truth would always remain. Love doesn't always need words. Sometimes it just needs someone willing to listen. The end.